Hey guys, it's Sam and welcome back to my critique series. If you're unfamiliar with this series, it's basically where I critique your guys' artwork. You can find the entire playlist of critiques linked in the description down below, along with the form to submit your artwork for critique. Pretty self-explanatory. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so this artwork was submitted by Scotty, and they said that they thought it was their second best drawing, but still found it to be stiff and awkward and had trouble with shading due to the red light source. So my first impressions are actually quite positive. I found the style and execution quite appealing and interesting to look at least for me. I think the red for the light source certainly upped things and kept my eyes floating around the drawing, which is good. A mix of the warm highlights and cool shadows works very well. I applaud you for trying something you found challenging. The main thing that stood out to me was less the color choices and more so the placement of the shading itself. I've done this plenty of times myself, putting down shadows and highlights without really considering why I'm putting them there, especially when it came to cell shading, which is something I've found to be quite difficult in the past and still sometimes nowadays. But shadows and highlights always come down to one thing, and that's form, value. They're both kind of connected. What is the form of the object? What's the shape of it? And how can I add values to emulate what it would appear as if it were a three-dimensional object? I actually have a tutorial series talking about the fundamentals. If you want more information, I'll put a link in the description. I recommend watching the entire thing, not just picking and choosing, since they're all related and build off one another. But for this piece specifically, try to ask yourself, what are the forms of the objects that you're shading? You seem to have it down in a few places, but for example, the arm. So what is an arm? It's round, right? I don't mean to sound condescending. I ask myself these questions too when I'm shading sometimes. So you need to think about it. An arm is round, so you want to have the shadows emulate that curve. Or in this case, it's a little bit more in this direction. I also tried to mark the light source so I knew where things were coming from. And then I did a quick paint over to hopefully help emphasize my point. It's not the most beautiful, but what I did was to try and keep that curve. So just yours and then mine. I'm still working on my cell shading, so obviously this could be a lot prettier. Similarly, I painted over a few other spots. Not super gorgeous, but again, just trying to get my point across. It's just the before and after. And so one I wanted to talk about specifically was the face, because I noticed that you definitely considered the planes of the face here, which is fantastic, with the shadows right here, or the shadows highlights right there. So you definitely were thinking, and I like that. But I just have a few comments about that, and that's mostly due to the location of your light source, from what I could understand based off of the light and shadows of your drawing. So to me, it seems the light is maybe a bit behind and on the left side. So over here, I pulled up Andrew Loomis's face and planes of the face example drawings. If you don't know who he is, he was a great artist. Definitely recommend checking out him and his books. But right here, he just kind of covers some of the basic planes of the face, and planes are just like you're simplifying. You can kind of think of it in like a digital way, like on a computer, nothing is like perfectly round, like you can't have a circle. Everything is just little pixels, like little squares. So you're kind of breaking things, complex shapes down into like really geometric forms. So that's kind of what he's doing here with the face with this first more simplistic one, and then he gets a little bit more elaborate on the second one. Based off of that, and just looking at some face examples, here's a guy I pulled up from Pixabay, and I quick made some notes of just planes of the face, familiar with the placement of things, where things are, and in knowing that, you can know how light affects it. So if you have light coming from the side, you would know that it would hit here much more so than it would hit here. So that's kind of what you're seeing happening on this guy's face. The light is coming from this side and it's hitting here, this shape, much more so than down here. And then another example I pulled from Pixabay, ignore the little fake added smoke. I didn't feel like editing that out. But you can see something similar happening here. She has multiple light sources, which makes things a little bit more complicated, but it also helps emphasize the forms of her face much better. So I thought this would be a good example to show you. But you can see I kind of did a quick scribble of some of the planes of the face, the same thing. And in this instance, because she has such a strong light source coming from this side, you get a really bold, strong highlight over here. And she also has light coming from a bit above, and it's creating this nice, really pretty core shadow. I love shadows like that. They look so pretty. Hopefully that makes sense. That is why I changed things the way that I did. So because the light is coming from over here, I thought that it would hit this side. Oops, put that actually over here. So that's why I put this side with the highlights and not here where you had it before. And then on the other side of the face, the nose would be blocking it. You had a lighter shadow here, and then it gets dark. And I can understand your thinking for that, because that's how like you see cell shading. And but I ended up changing it to have the darker go all the way up here, just because I'm thinking that would be where the least amount of light would be seen. And then I changed the shape of the shadow under the eye just a little bit. And then I just like doing the lip stuff, so I put a little bit of the lighter shadow down there as well. For the hair, I kind of just quick scribbled. I think you kind of had like a good like base, like you kind of knew where you were going with it. I don't know if mine is entirely right. I probably should like have more of the shadow coming in over here, but it's something to play around with, I guess. And what I did include, though, was a little bit of the light, oops, lost my color, was a little bit of the light coming over and around, just because for cell shading, I think that just kind of looks nice to have a sort of rim light, I guess, or like backlight, reflected lights, that sort of thing. That's totally personal preference. Yeah, so I did something similar over here with the arm, which was, it had this light right here, and I got rid of that, and then I added a touch of the backlight. I just used the same color. It's not super noticeable, so maybe I'd use a different color. But then also I did a little bit of red at the top, just because I thought maybe it would be seen from where the light source is coming from. And then same down here. I didn't feel like this arm was blocking this section enough, so I added some of the red highlights showing through there, and then just some more before and after, just so you can catch all the changes that I did. But as I was doing the paint over, I noticed I had some similar questions coming up again and again, like why was something shaded this way but this other thing wasn't, or where exactly is the light source again, to make sure that things would be hit by it. For example, this arm right here, which seems to be tucked kind of close to his body. It's kind of hard to tell exactly. I'm also not familiar with the character design, so I don't know if there would be other stuff going on over there. But from what I assumed, I figured that it would be blocked. So I figured no light hitting it, it gets no light. Since the main source seems to be coming from this side, I didn't think there would be anything there. And then for my first question of why are certain things shaded some way but other things aren't, that mostly comes with the gold trimming on his outfit. I don't know if it's gold. If it's gold, this is a completely different story. But if it's fabric, then I had some questions. And the reason I say gold is different is because gold is a completely different material, and that's a whole nother video. But anyway, like I would notice that there is a shadow here, but like not one here. Are they different? Is there something I'm missing or not understanding? What else? That was like the main bit, I thought. And I noticed that it looks like you had like a multiply layer or something going on, because this is all shaded the same. But then where is this light coming from? Is there an additional light source that I'm missing? There's just a little bit of confusion there. So I think that's just the sort of the stuff that I was thinking. And I think those were my main points, really. I think you did a better job than you think, though, because Just right now, it seems like you're mostly struggling with forms and shadow, and the rest is actually really strong. Like, I really like your style, and your line work's really nice, and I think you actually did a pretty good job with the colors. Just a suggestion, I would take a camera or your sketchbook and go into a dimly lit room with a flashlight with various objects, or in the bathroom and look in the mirror, and either take reference photos or sketch live the stuff that you see. So move around the flashlight to get different angles, ask yourself questions like, why is this lit this way? What happens if I put the flashlight over here? I'll talk about this a little bit more in another tutorial video with shading the face with different lighting angles. I'll put that in the description as well. The concepts in that video can apply to things other than the face. But keep it up though, I think you're doing a really good job. And I hope you found this helpful. If you'd like to see more from Scotty, I'll have their DeviantArt page in the description. And if you'd like to see more critique videos, again, I have the entire playlist in the description, linked down below. A special shout out to all my supporters over on my Patreon page. If you'd like to see more artwork, tutorials, and other bonus content, as well as helping me out in return, consider becoming a patron. Link is in the description for more information. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe for more art-related videos. And thanks so much for watching. Bye!